Mount Kailash is not the tallest mountain on Earth. It isn't even close. And yet, it may be the most untouched mountain on the planet. Thousands of people have stood on Everest. Thousands more have tried their luck on K2. But Kailash, 6,638 meters high, sitting in the far western reaches of Tibet, has no summit selfies, no triumphant flags, no first ascent legends passed down in climbers' bars. Not because it's impossible, because it's forbidden. And what happens when a place is both forbidden and famous is predictable. The silence becomes a canvas. Rumors rush in to fill it. Stories multiply. The mountain stops being a mountain and starts becoming a question. If you're here for the clean, official explanation, you'll get it. But if you're here for the deeper story, the one that lives in the gap between geology and belief, then you're exactly where Shadowed Truths belongs. And if you want more long-form mysteries where history, myth, and real-world evidence collide, subscribe to Shadowed Truths now, because this is one of those places where the truth isn't a single answer. It's a layered terrain. Kailash rises from a high, cold plateau in the Tibet Autonomous Region of China, near Lake Manasarovar and the darker, salter Lake Rakshastal. From this region come the headwaters, nearby, not neatly pouring out of the peak, but originating in the same general vicinity of several great Asian river systems, the Indus, the Sutlej, the Brahmaputra, via the Yarlung Tsongpa, and the Karnali, a tributary system of the Ganges. That alone would be enough to make the place sacred. Water is life, and in harsh landscapes, the sources of rivers become holy by default. But Kailash is more than a hydrological crossroads. It is claimed, revered, circled, and protected by four major traditions: Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Bon. In Hinduism, it's associated with Shiva. In Tibetan Buddhism, it's tied to Demchok and profound cosmology. In Jain tradition, it's linked to the liberation of the first Tirthankara. In Bon, it holds an older, native sacred gravity, something primordial that predates newer layers of meaning. So people do not climb it. They walk around it. The pilgrimage route, the Kora, the circumambulation, is the point. You don't conquer Kailash. You orbit it. In this logic, the summit isn't a prize. It's a boundary. And China enforces that boundary. There has been no recorded successful ascent, and climbing is prohibited due to the mountain's religious significance. Even when modern mountaineering culture tried to test the line, when discussions surfaced about potential expeditions, the official position hardened. No summit attempts. Here is where the story begins to split. Because the official reason is simple: respect the sacred mountain. But the unofficial reasons, what people whisper, what gets repeated in travel forums and late-night documentaries, are never simple. And Mount Kailash is a magnet for the kind of mystery that feels too symmetrical to ignore. Look at it from the north and you see why. Kailash has a striking, pyramidal silhouette. The ridgelines look unusually clean. The faces feel geometric in a way that makes the human brain do what it always does: reach for patterns, reach for intention, reach for design. And that's where careless storytelling can go wrong. Because it looks like a pyramid is not the same thing as it is a pyramid. All over the world, mountains take on pyramidal forms, especially in regions shaped by ice. Glaciers carve basins called cirques. Multiple cirques erode toward the same summit. Over long spans, that summit gets sharpened, steepened, and sculpted into something that can look almost engineered: a glacial horn, a pyramidal peak. So the first grounded answer is this: you don't need lost super civilizations to explain a pyramid-shaped mountain. In glaciated terrain, sharp geometry is exactly what nature does. But then Kailash adds something else, something that refuses to stay purely geological. There is a marking on its south face, a strong vertical cleft crossed by horizontal bands that, under the right light, can resemble a swastika-like symbol. In much of Asia, long before the 20th century poisoned the symbol in the West, this was an ancient sign of auspiciousness. In the Bon tradition, Kailash has even been described with swastika symbolism tied to the landscape itself. Is it carved? Most likely not. The more plausible explanation is that it's a natural intersection of strata and fracture lines. rock structure, erosion, and shadow doing what they do best, creating the illusion of meaning. But here's the trap: even if it's natural, it doesn't feel random when it aligns with belief. And when something feels chosen, people begin asking whether the mountain is answering them back. Then come the Four Faces stories, claims that each side of Kailash carries a different color or spiritual quality. Those descriptions often read like mythic language rather than literal mineralogy. But myth has its own kind of precision. It doesn't care about lab tests. It cares about memory. It cares about how a place makes people feel when they stand before it and realize they've been told, for centuries, that this is the spine of the world. And that phrase, the axis mundi, the world center, shows up again and again around Kailash. Sometimes it's symbolic. Sometimes it turns into numerology, distances to poles, distances to monuments, repeating numbers that feel too neat to be coincidence. But here's what responsible mystery storytelling demands. If someone claims an exact number, like a perfect repeating distance to the North Pole and Stonehenge, treat it as a claim, not a fact. Because with enough points on a globe and enough flexibility in what counts as a center, you can make patterns appear. The human mind is brilliant at turning approximation into prophecy. Still, the persistence of the idea tells us something real. Across cultures, Kailash has been perceived not merely as a peak, but as a pivot. Now let's talk about the lakes, because this is where the mountain stops being a silhouette and becomes an ecosystem of contrasts. Lake Manasarovar sits high, one of the world's highest large freshwater lakes. It can freeze in winter. It supports life. It is revered as pure. Right beside it, Lake Rakshastal is saline, darker in tone, harsher in reputation, sometimes called a demon lake in popular retellings. The two are connected by a short channel known as the Ganga Chu, which links Manasarovar's overflow toward Rakshastal. So why do they look and behave so differently while sitting side by side? The simplest answer is the one people often skip because it sounds unromantic: chemistry and drainage. Endorheic basins, lakes with limited or no outflow, tend to concentrate salts over time. Freshwater lakes with more active inflow/outflow cycles remain fresher. Add wind, sediment, and seasonal conditions, and two neighboring lakes can feel like opposites. But to pilgrims and storytellers, the lakes become a moral diagram: brightness and darkness, sun and crescent, purity and poison, side by side like the world itself. And when a place already carries that kind of symbolic power, every unusual detail gets pulled into the gravity well. Which brings us to the claim that caused your last video the most damage: the rapid aging story. Let's say it clearly. There is no reliable, verifiable public documentation of a real expedition where climbers stepped onto Kailash, aged dramatically within hours, then died of old age within a year as a direct physical effect of the mountain. This story exists primarily as legend, repeated in sensational articles and attributed loosely to accounts around a 1999 expedition led by Ernst Moldyshev, a Russian ophthalmologist who wrote popular, controversial claims about the region. The story persists because it's perfectly shaped for the modern internet: a forbidden mountain, a trespass, a supernatural consequence, and an impossible biological effect that sounds like time itself is weaponized. But biology doesn't work that way. Hair and nails do not grow weeks' worth in a few hours. A year of decades of aging is not how time dilation works at terrestrial altitudes. Relativity does produce time dilation, yes, but on a mountain, the difference is so tiny you need atomic clocks to measure it, not eyeballs in a blizzard. So if we're being disciplined, if we're writing a script that doesn't insult the audience's intelligence, the rapid aging tale must be framed as what it is: a modern myth attached to a sacred place, not established evidence of a time warp. And here's the twist: treating it as myth doesn't make it less interesting. It makes it more interesting. Because once you stop asking, is it literally true? You can start asking the better question. Why does this particular myth attach itself to this particular mountain? One answer is psychological. Kailash is remote, high altitude, and punishing. Even being in the region can trigger exhaustion, dehydration, altitude sickness, sleep disruption, and cognitive distortion. People misjudge time. They feel older. They feel drained. they return home changed. In that state, stories are born. Another answer is cultural. In many traditions, holy places are not meant to be used. They are meant to be approached with limits. Sacred geography often has an enforcement mechanism, not always a soldier, but a story, a warning, a consequence. Do not climb. And if someone does, the mountain must respond. So the story evolves. Those who try to take the summit are punished by time itself. Now we arrive at the other major modern theory, the one your viewers expected when the title promised it, but the script never handled cleanly, the non-human construction idea. You'll hear it stated in different ways. That Kailash is too perfect to be natural. That it's a man-made pyramid. That it's the capstone of an underground complex, Shambhala, the city of gods, a hidden archive of knowledge beneath the rock. That it is alien, or not alien in the sci-fi sense, divine beings, advanced ancient civilization, technology mistaken for miracles. This is where a lot of channels lose the audience. They speak in vague absolutes, near-perfect symmetry. Experts say, scientists admit, it's impossible today. So let's do it properly. Yes, Kailash has a striking shape. Yes, some authors have claimed it is artificial. But geology provides a coherent explanation for the mountain's structure. It consists of thick conglomerate rocks over a granite base, tied to the complex tectonic and sedimentary history of the region. In other words, it has layers and materials consistent with natural formation in an active collision zone, the kind of setting that built the Himalaya and the Trans-Himalaya in the first place. And the perfect sides are not perfect when measured. They are visually dramatic, and the mountain is photogenic in a way that makes the human pattern recognition engine go into overdrive. As for the claim that planes can't fly over it, that one also needs to be cleaned up. Aircraft can and do fly over the Tibetan Plateau under certain conditions. But the plateau is high, remote, and unforgiving in an emergency. Cabin depressurization at altitude is time-critical. Diversion airports and rapid descent options can be limited by terrain. Routes are shaped by safety margins, airspace restrictions, and operational planning, not invisible force fields above a sacred peak. Once you replace the supernatural explanation with the real constraints, the mystery doesn't die. It just becomes more intelligible. And an intelligible mystery is more powerful than nonsense, because the audience can stay with you without feeling manipulated. So what remains once we remove the claims that don't hold up? The core mystery of Kailash isn't that physics breaks there. It's that human meaning concentrates there. For religions, one mountain. A pilgrimage that doesn't require a summit, only devotion, endurance, and a slow orbit through thin air. A landscape that naturally produces dramatic geometry. A south face that can resemble an ancient symbol through shadow and structure. Two neighboring lakes that look like opposites, fresh and saline, round and crescent, life and lifelessness. A modern ban on climbing that turns absence into obsession. Kailash is a perfect case study in how legends form, not because people are stupid, but because the place is powerful enough to invite story. And here's the part most people miss. Even if every paranormal claim is false, the mountain still does something to people. Not with lasers, not with time portals, with distance, with altitude, with the psychological weight of standing before a place that millions consider sacred, a place you are not meant to dominate, only to witness. That is why Reinhold Messner, one of the most accomplished climbers in modern history, reportedly turned away from the idea of climbing Kailash. Not because he feared the rock, but because he understood what the act would mean to others. The summit, in this context, is not an athletic challenge. It's a cultural line. And when a line like that exists, the most revealing question isn't, what's at the top? It's, why are we so desperate to go there? Because somewhere in the modern mind, conquest equals truth. If we can stand on it, we can explain it. If we can measure it, we can own it. Kailash refuses that deal. It doesn't offer you proof. It offers you presence. And that refusal is exactly why the theories keep coming back. Aliens, pyramids, hidden cities, time warps. Those stories are not really about the mountain. They're about us. They're about what we do when confronted with a place that has been declared off-limits not by danger, but by meaning. So the next time you see a headline claiming the mountain that ages you to death, don't just ask whether it's true. Ask why that's the story people want to tell. Because sacred places have always attracted two kinds of travelers. The first comes to circle the mystery. The second comes to solve it. And Mount Kailash, has a way of turning the second kind into the first. If you want more stories like this, where we separate what's real, what's claimed, and what's believed without killing the wonder, subscribe to Shadow Truths. We don't need to invent miracles to find the strange corners of history. They're already there, hiding in plain sight. And the next time, we'll go somewhere else the world insists is explained, until you look closely and realize it never was.